Yeah, it was an interesting year, interesting challenge for us. We came out of the fall with a lot of optimism and so forth from our fall season. And then obviously Yanni's situation was challenging for us as a team. I don't know how you necessarily rally around that, but I feel like we just tried to make sure that he knew he wasn't alone going through the circumstances. We did other things, just trying to stay connected with him. We raised a few funds to help his family with things. Obviously, we lifted him up in prayer. We took some time off the times after the game just to pray around first base where Yanni would have been. And I just feel like it was a humble reminder that baseball is still a game. We get frustrated a lot with what's going on out in the field, but it was just a humble reminder that there's other issues going on in life, and there's a lot of things that are probably more important than the game results or going 0 for 4. So those things were always on our mind, I think. Well, I get asked by opposing coaches, and other people, and I really appreciate, first of all, their concern for him and just realizing that, there's things going on with our team that are off the field. It's a difficult question to answer. Yanni, if anyone knows his personality, he's not too high, he's not too low. So he tends to deal with things as they come at him. And yet I do know that it's got to wear on someone, thinking that our season, for us, it seems like it flies by. But for him, I'm sure it's been 3 months that seem like 3 years. So I guess I just appreciate, and I know the family appreciates the concerns and so forth, but obviously he's continuing to go through chemotherapy, and I texted with him yesterday. He's down in Columbus this week just getting some more treatment, and I think a lot of that is just going to be how his cancer responds to things. Every indication to this point has been that things have been going well, and they're getting some results with the chemotherapy. First of all, I feel like it was a pretty significant accomplishment for this team to get to the postseason. It's always been one of our goals, but in light of what we were dealing with injuries and different things, I feel like just getting there was a significant accomplishment for our guys. Looking back and looking at the playoffs, I feel like it's a lot about matchups. We happened to be in a bracket with Taylor, which probably was one of the teams we had the least amount of results with during the year. And so, true to form, we got in the playoffs and they hit us hard in the very first inning. And so it seemed like we were always going uphill. And we got handled pretty well in that first ball game. And you just don't know how our guys are going to respond. But I feel great that we went back and competed well against Goshen again, which was a matchup that we handled pretty well during the season. And we talked to our guys, just letting them know that basically whether you lose by 50 or you lose by 1, you're going into the next game 0-1, and it only matters if you make it a significant issue. So I felt like our guys came back with some good energy and didn't just waller in the day before, and came back and responded well and got a win, which I think is really important, just to get to the postseason and then just not go 0-2 and be done. I feel like you at least put a stake in the ground just saying that you're over here to compete. And, it has, I think, significance in terms of the psyche for our team moving forward next year, and also for the rest of the league, letting them know that, again, we're there to compete. We knew going into the year that we were going to be light on the upper class scale of things. Having Jesse being the lone senior is pretty unique, and the other thing that's kind of unique about that is realistically he was only in his second year here, so in some ways he was a sophomore in our program, but he does have 4 years of playing experience. I thought Jesse had a fantastic year as a senior. I can't imagine him wanting to go out with any better performance than he had individually. Obviously, as a team, we'd like to have gone further and played longer, but he had an outstanding season as a senior. He's a quiet leader, but doesn't have a lot of words to say, but does have a significant impact on our team just in terms of work habits, being a consistent personality on your team that's going to be there to compete and play and perform. So, again, I think those things don't go unnoticed to your underclassmen. I feel like off-season basically means it's preseason for next year, and I don't know if there's a whole lot of slowdown. It's more like shifting gears. You just focus your attention on other things in terms of preparing your next roster and your next team for the upcoming year. We try to communicate with everybody at the end of the year, have postseason interviews with guys, just trying to talk to them about their next steps as a player, just trying to have them have some direction as they head into the next year. I think nobody on our team was content with where we finished as a team, so we have a lot of areas of improvement that we need to keep addressing as we go into the off season and into the fall. So we're trying to get a more competitive team as we head into the next year. Some of that's going to be from a recruiting standpoint. Some of it's going to be from improvements with our own rosters. So we're trying to focus on that, trying to get guys to understand some things they can do in off season. Some guys will play during the summer. Other guys will get on a lifting program. Just a variety of things that are more individual in nature, probably, than, as opposed to being a team. As I mentioned, if you look at our statistical numbers at the end of the year when we're all done, I don't know if there's any area that we can't handle some improvements on. We were not necessarily at the top end of the league in virtually anything: offense, defense, pitching numbers, all across the board. I feel like there's just a whole lot of improvement that we can make, and we've got to try to address those things specifically in terms of positions. But the beauty about baseball is you're not really locked into a position once you get onto a new team. If there's opportunities, we had guys playing in positions that they hadn't really played a whole lot as high school players, but you come into this team and you have opportunities, and so you want to plug people in. So we're trying to create as much versatility with that as we can and try to make sure all of our positions are covered. Obviously, we've always put an emphasis on our pitching stuff. And that's obviously a focus we need to address as we head into next year too. So yeah, it's still in process. We feel good about some of the people we have coming in next year. But once you get them in here in the fall, it's about performing. It's about earning your opportunities at the plate and in innings on the mound. So expectations, just hopefully guys that will come in and are hungry, and hopefully they'll make us better as a unit. We learn a whole lot more through our disappointments and our failures than we do probably when things are just going well. And obviously we've gotten an opportunity to kind of evaluate a little bit more as a coaching staff. Personally, I feel like there's things that I've got to improve on as a head coach moving forward. One of the things I just really have been impressed with, we've got to reestablish what I call the Cougar way of doing things as a program. We've addressed, even towards the last third of the year, just about our effort out on the field. Sometimes you kind of camouflage that by having results. And so I think in times when you don't get the results, then you start to realize that we can improve that, we can get better with that, we need to emphasize that. And a lot of things, just a team culture that I feel like we can improve upon. Obviously, instructional things that I think we can improve upon. It's a challenging thing. Winning is fragile, and even though we've had a good run of success, I don't look at this as necessarily a step back. Only if we don't really evaluate what got us into the position where we weren't successful. We had all kinds of excuses we can use for the year. I've never let our guys use youth as an experience and being young. At the end of the year, you look back, yeah, we were very inexperienced, we were very young. We had games where we had 7 freshmen out on the field, and that's just unheard of at our level. A lot of teams, freshmen won't even see the field at the elite level. So that's easy to make that as an excuse, but that's what we were faced with. I commend our guys for competing throughout all of that, and really I feel like never really quit competing and trying to make a good season out of what was in front of us, and we played all the way to the end, and I just feel like those things can help us as we move down the road. And we individually, I think we saw some things that we can improve, but I think for the coaching staff and specifically, there's a lot of areas we can do better too. I guess one of the things I appreciate about working at the college level, you're always turning over teams. Sometimes you are kind of looking at that with a sense of sadness because some guys have really invested in themselves, bought in and everything. Other times you're just churning away, trying to find solutions, trying to improve, trying to get better. So there's always this sense of optimism, I think, heading into a new year. We get into the fall, we'll have a lot of new faces. You just change a couple personalities, it changes the whole perspective of the team. So I'm always looking forward to the next opportunity. Baseball, we play a lot of games, and so you can't really, sit and be frustrated about a result of the former game. You get another opportunity to do it again, and the same thing happens with year-to-year seasons. Probably the thing I'm most anxious for is to just get started again and start formulating some things, be recommitted to some things that I feel like we can do a better job with again. And so, those things will come quickly. Summer flies. We'll be out on the recruiting trail trying to add some additional players, and then just trying to formulate some places to go with recruits in the seasons ahead. So it never ends. It's always a constant being conscientious of where things can move, where things can improve.